I'm 33 years old and pregnant by my 16-year-old son's friend.
Second part.
Finally, he looked at me, and what I saw in his eyes shattered me. It wasn't just anger, it was disappointment. A hurt so deep that it seemed impossible to repair. "I'm gonna live with my dad," he said, his voice firm as if he had already made up his mind. He always told me I could go whenever I wanted, and I think now is the time. I felt as if the ground was crumbling beneath me again. "Vincent, please," I pleaded, taking a step forward, but he raised his hand, stopping me. "I can't stay here anymore, Mom," he said with a tone of desperation I had never heard before. "You lied to me. You and Tyler. How could you do this? How could you betray me like this?" Tears finally escaped my eyes. "I know I made a mistake, Vincent. I know I hurt you deeply, but we can work this out. We can face this situation together. Please don't go." My voice came out choked, almost inaudible. He looked at me, his eyes shining with tears he refused to let fall. "I can't, Mom. You destroyed our family. I can't look at you without remembering what you did. I need distance. I need time. And frankly, I need someone I can trust." He took a deep breath, and his next words cut me like a sharp blade. "And that someone isn't you." My whole body recoiled at that statement. I tried to get closer, desperate to fix what seemed irreparable, but he began to close his suitcase, making it clear that the decision was made. "I've talked to my dad. He's coming to get me this afternoon. I'm going to live with him in another state. I need a fresh start." The thought of losing my son to my ex-husband, a man who had always been distant and absent, left me desperate. "Vincent, your dad, he's never been there for you like you need. I'm here. I've always been. Please don't go. Don't make this decision in haste." He let out a bitter laugh that cut even deeper. "Don't you understand, Mom? I would prefer his absence to this betrayal. At least with him, I know what to expect." My throat tightened, and the tears that came uncontrollably blinded me. "Please, Vincent, give me a chance. I was wrong, I know that, but I'm your mother. We've always been close. I can't lose you like this." He took a deep breath, and for a brief moment I saw the pain soften in his eyes. But then he slowly shook his head. "I need to go," was all he said before turning his back to me and closing the last suitcase. The following hours were a blur of pain. When Vincent's dad's car arrived, he walked out the door without looking back. I watched him leave, the most important person in my life drifting away, and there was nothing I could do. The gate closed with a metallic sound, and suddenly the house was completely empty. All that remained was the echo of our memories, now covered by the dust of betrayal. I sat in the living room, staring into nothing. The house, once filled with Vincent's laughter and conversations with Tyler, was cold, silent, and empty. I felt as if a black hole was forming inside me, sucking away all the happiness that remained. Tyler still tried to call that night, but I didn't answer. The sound of the phone vibrating on the table was just a reminder of the chaos he had brought into my life, into Vincent's life. Now, all that was left was the weight of my choices. I had destroyed my son's trust, pushed away the person I loved most, and now I was alone. Alone with the guilt, alone with the weight of the mistake I made. The days after Vincent's departure were a painful blur of loneliness and regret. The space that had once been filled with my son's laughter now felt like a mausoleum of what our family had been. And I didn't know if I would ever be able to recover what was lost. It was on a Saturday afternoon that Tyler showed up. I was sitting on the couch, staring at the turned-off television, trying to fill the void with any distraction, when I heard the doorbell. My heart skipped a beat, already knowing who it would be. Since Vincent had left, Tyler had been trying to reach out, but I had always avoided him. I didn't have the strength to deal with him, to face the person responsible for half the chaos my life had become. But that afternoon, I couldn't ignore the persistent sound. I slowly got up and opened the door. There he was, looking serious and tired. There was something different in his gaze, something more mature, perhaps. He seemed less carefree than before, as if responsibility had finally caught up with him. "Edith, can I come in?" he asked, his voice low, almost as if he knew he was invading a territory that no longer belonged to him. I paused for a moment, wanting to close the door and lock myself away in my world of pain, but I ended up stepping aside and letting him in. He walked into the living room and stood there, as if he didn't know where he fit anymore. There was a distance between us that had never existed before, something insurmountable. "I know things are a mess," he began, his eyes fixed on mine. "And I know the situation with Vincent was devastating, but we need to talk about the baby." The mention of the baby made my heart weigh even heavier. I couldn't think of a new life without remembering the one I had destroyed. I sat down on the couch, feeling the emotional fatigue weighing on me, and looked at him. "What do you want, Tyler? What more can be said now?" He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck, clearly nervous. "I know things got out of hand. I was wrong too, and I acknowledge that. But we're both in this now. We're going to have a baby, Edith. And as much as the situation with Vincent spiraled out of control, I want to do the right thing moving forward." I stared at him, unsure how to react. Part of me was too exhausted to fight, but another part, the part that still felt the heavy guilt, questioned whether it was really possible to move forward. "Doing the right thing?" I repeated, my voice thick with skepticism. "And what would be the right thing, Tyler? Because right now, it seems like there are only ruins around us." He moved closer and sat down beside me, but kept a careful distance, as if he knew that any wrong move could ruin what little was left. "We made mistakes, Edith, but now we have to think about the baby. I want to be present. I want to be by your side, to help, to raise this child together. We can rebuild something from this." The idea of living together seemed like an absurd proposal. Me, Tyler, and the baby. As if it were possible to erase what happened with Vincent, as if we could simply start a new life, as if nothing had happened. I shook my head, confused and hurt. "Do you think that's all it is? That we can ignore what we did, that Vincent's departure won't haunt us?" Tyler looked at me, and for the first time since everything happened, I saw sincerity in his eyes. "I'm not saying it will be easy. I know it will be hard, very hard, but I'm willing to face it with you. I don't want you to go through this alone. We can build a new life, Edith, for both of us and for our child." His words echoed inside me. I was so used to carrying the weight of the world alone that, for a moment, the idea of having someone by my side, of not facing everything alone, seemed tempting. But the truth was that all I could think about was Vincent, how he had been destroyed by the situation. "Tyler?" "I don't know if I can," I replied, my voice breaking. "I lost my child. He's gone. And you want me to just move on?" He placed his hand over mine, in a gesture that once felt natural, but now was laden with uncertainties. "I'm not saying it's simple. I know it's complicated, but we need to do what's right for the baby. We can be a family." The words "be a family" resonated in my mind like something unattainable. A family. After everything, how could we be a family? But something inside me, perhaps the instinct of a mother pushing me, made me hesitate. I was on the brink of a new life. There was a baby on the way. And no matter how much the weight of guilt crushed me, the future wouldn't wait for me to resolve all my dilemmas. I would need to make a decision. "Do you really think we can do this?" I asked, in a whisper, still uncertain. Tyler nodded, his eyes fixed on mine. "I believe we can try. For us, and especially for the baby. I don't want to run away from my responsibilities, and I still care about you." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of a choice that would change everything. Living together, raising a child together. Could this be the way out? Was I willing to rebuild something on the ruins of my old life? The silence between us lasted a few seconds, but it felt like an eternity. I knew the decision wasn't simple, and that, no matter what I chose, the past could never be erased. But maybe there was still a chance to move forward, somehow. The days after the conversation with Tyler passed slowly, each bringing more questions than answers. I lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, trying to imagine what this new life he proposed would be like. Living together, raising a child, starting something new. His words echoed in my head constantly. We can be a family. But the truth was that I no longer knew what family meant. The apartment was quieter than ever, and Vincent's absence ate away at me from the inside. Everything reminded me of him, the photos on the walls, his clothes still hanging in the closet. When I passed by his empty room, my chest tightened. He had gone to live with his father, and since then he hadn't given me any sign. No calls, no messages. It was as if he had erased me from his life, and perhaps he really wanted to do that. I knew I was being consumed by guilt, but there was also the baby. I couldn't run away from that. The changes in my body were becoming more evident, and with each little symptom, the reality that I would be a mother again became inevitable. One day, looking in the mirror, I placed my hand on my belly, still small but already visible. This is my future now, I thought. No matter the chaos around me, I needed to be strong for this new life. It was on a rainy afternoon that Tyler came looking for me again. He hadn't insisted since our last conversation, giving me the space I needed, but I knew that sooner or later he would return. When I opened the door, he was there, holding a bouquet of flowers, trying to mask the tension with an uncertain smile. "Can I come in?" he asked, almost shyly. I nodded silently, letting him in. He walked into the living room, placing the flowers on the table and turning to face me. I could feel the weight of what he was about to say. It was as if the proposal he had made before was there, floating between us, waiting for a response. "I thought a lot about what you said," I began, before he could speak. "About living together, raising this child, being a family." The words came out with difficulty. And the truth is that even if I wanted to believe that this would solve things, I don't know if I can. Tyler frowned, clearly disheartened by my hesitation. "Why not, Edith? We made mistakes, yes, but that doesn't mean we can't try to fix things." I sighed, feeling the weight of the situation. Fix things. It feels like all I've done is destroy what we had. Vincent is gone, and I don't know if he will ever forgive me. How can I start a new life with you, knowing that I lost my child? He took a step forward, trying to reach me with his gaze. "Edith, I know that what happened to Vincent was terrible, and I feel responsible for it too. But now, we have another life to take care of. A baby who will need both of us, and I'm willing to be here, to support you, to build something new. I still care about you." The sincerity in his voice made me shiver. There was something different about Tyler now, something I hadn't seen before. He was no longer the carefree young man who came into my house to play at being an adult. He was there, willing to face the consequences, willing to stay. This confused me even more. I sat on the couch, exhausted from the internal battle raging inside me. He moved closer and sat beside me, this time nearer, as if he wanted me to truly feel his presence. "I never imagined things would end up like this," I confessed, my voice trembling. "I feel lost. And at the same time, I know I can't run away from this. I can't run away from you, nor from this baby." Tyler reached out and held my hand gently. "You don't have to be alone in this. We can do this together. It may not be easy, but I am here." I looked at him, trying to find any trace of the insecurity he always showed. But this time, there was firmness. He wanted to be there. He wanted to be a father. He wanted to try to build something, even if everything around us seemed to be crumbling. I felt on the verge of a decision that would change the rest of my life. "What will we do?" I asked, almost in a whisper, as if the answer were the starting point for a new journey. He squeezed my hand gently. "We're going to try. I'll be by your side. We will raise this child together. And who knows, one day Vincent will understand. He needs time, but we can't be stuck in the past forever. We have to move forward, for us and for this new life." Silence filled the room as I processed his words. It was a leap into the dark, a step into the unknown. I was still haunted by Vincent's departure, but somehow Tyler's presence brought me a bit of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way to move on, even if it was painful. Even if it meant accepting the new and leaving the past behind. "All right, Tyler," I finally responded, feeling a mix of relief and fear. "Let's try." He smiled, this time genuinely, as if that small phrase had ignited something in him. "We will make it, Edith," he said, with a confidence that I still didn't possess. But at that moment, I decided to believe in him, at least for now. As he embraced me, a strange feeling of resignation and hope mingled within me. I didn't know what the future held for us, but a new journey was just beginning. The atmosphere felt heavier than ever. Tyler had moved into the apartment a few weeks ago, and although life was far from calm, I was trying to adjust to the new reality. But the silence continued to reign between us. The pregnancy was advancing, and the physical and emotional weight was starting to take its toll. I was exhausted, both from the baby and the delicate situation my life had become. Tyler was doing what he could to help me, but deep down, we both knew that the shadow of Vincent's absence was always present. Even on nights when we tried to talk about the future, Something between us remained unfinished. Then, everything suddenly changed. I was in the kitchen preparing something to eat when I heard the door open. I thought it was Tyler returning from an appointment, but when I turned around, my heart nearly stopped. It was Vincent. He was there, standing in the doorway, his face hardened, with eyes shining with a mix of anger and hurt. For a moment, I didn't know what to do. My voice failed, and all I could manage was a fragile Vincent. He looked at me intently and saw that the home he had left now had Tyler's presence, who was living there as if nothing had happened. "I came back to get some things," he finally said, his voice low and cold. "But it seems a lot has changed around here." There was a cutting disdain in his words, and the resentment was obvious. Before I could respond, the living room door opened again. It was Tyler. As soon as he entered, his eyes locked onto Vincent, and the air in the room became even heavier. Tyler hesitated for a moment, clearly surprised by Vincent's presence, but soon tried to maintain his composure. "Vincent," he began, in a calm but tense voice. "I didn't know you were coming." Vincent interrupted him with a furious glare. "Of course not. Why would you know? After all, you've taken everything that was mine, right?" The words came out like poison, and I could see the hatred growing in his eyes. He was not just hurt, he was furious. And now Tyler was there at the center of his rage. "That's not fair, Vincent. I never wanted things to be this way," Tyler tried to argue, keeping calm, but it was clear that the tension was about to explode. "Not fair?" Vincent stepped forward, his fists clenched. "You are my best friend, or you were. Now you are the father of my brother. How could this be more fair?" His voice rose, each word laden with pain and betrayal. "Vincent, please, let's talk about this calmly." I tried to say, but my words felt useless. "Talk?" he shouted, turning to me, his eyes burning with fury. "You want to talk? As if none of this had happened? You destroyed our family, Mom. You both destroyed it." He pointed at Tyler, now advancing toward him. Tyler stepped forward, raising his hands, trying to calm the situation. "I understand your anger, Vincent, but I'm trying to do what's right now. I'm here for your mother, for your brother." Vincent exploded. "You do not have the right to talk about what is right." He stepped forward, and in the blink of an eye, the two were face to face, fists raised. I saw the exact moment the fight began. Vincent pushed Tyler hard, and Tyler, in reflex, grabbed him by the shoulder, trying to contain the situation. "Enough!" I shouted, but it was too late. Vincent, consumed by rage, attempted to punch Tyler, and the two started shoving each other, their voices blending with anger, hurt, and accumulated frustration. The sound of their bodies colliding in the room echoed throughout the house, and I felt powerless, watching the scene I had feared unfold. It was at that moment I felt something strange in my body, a strong pain in my lower abdomen. I doubled over, feeling an intense contraction. "Stop!" I shouted again, but my voice came out weak. The pain intensified, and I knew in an instant that something was wrong. Another contraction made me lose my balance. I placed my hand on my belly, feeling the tension increase. The stress of that moment was forcing my body to react. "Tyler!" I managed to scream, trying to get his attention. He turned to me instantly, his face still red from the fight. Seeing me doubled over in pain, he rushed to me, his expression shifting from anger to concern in the blink of an eye. "Edith, what's wrong?" I could barely speak, my breath interrupted by pain. "It's the baby. It's coming." Tyler's eyes widened, and Vincent, who was nearby, suddenly stopped, his anger replaced by shock. "What?" Vincent murmured, stunned. "I think it's time," I said, feeling a mix of fear and pain. The contractions were strong, and I knew the baby was on the way. Without hesitation, Tyler bent down and grabbed my arm. "Let's go. We need to get to the hospital now," he said urgently. Vincent, still dazed by the scene, stepped closer, his look confused and desperate. "Mom, what do I do?" The tension between the three of us disappeared for a moment, giving way to the panic of the impending arrival of the baby. As Tyler helped me out of the house, Vincent was right behind us, his anger now forgotten, replaced by a worry he didn't know how to handle. And so, amidst the chaos, the moment that should have been joyful was wrapped in stress, fighting, and a fractured family. The drive to the hospital was a desperate race against time. Tyler drove hurriedly, his face tense, while I tried to manage the contractions that were becoming increasingly intense. Vincent was by my side, gripping my hand tightly, his eyes fixed on mine, reflecting the same anxiety I felt. The anger he had shown moments earlier had vanished, replaced by a deep fear. The fear of loss, the fear of the unknown. The silence between the three of us was different now, charged with something deeper than words could explain. Upon arriving at the hospital, I was immediately taken to the delivery room. The pain felt unbearable, but the desperation to see my newborn's face drove me. Tyler stayed by my side the whole time, holding my hand with a firmness he had never shown before. He was there, present as he had promised. Vincent, although shaken, also stayed nearby, watching everything with worried eyes but not stepping away from me. The following hours passed in a blur of pain, fear, and anticipation. And then, finally, the moment arrived. With one last effort, I felt relief wash over my body, and the strong cry of the baby filled the room. It was as if the sound had the power to erase all the chaos that had surrounded us. There he was, our son, small, fragile, and yet so full of life. Tears streamed down my face as the nurse placed the baby in my arms. He was perfect. All the suffering, all the weight of the choices, everything seemed to vanish in that moment. Tyler approached, his eyes shining, and for a moment I saw him at peace, different from the confused young man who had entered my life months ago. "He's beautiful," Tyler whispered, still a bit in disbelief. His eyes were fixed on the baby, and I could see that, in that moment, he had transformed. The carefree young man filled with uncertainties had given way to a man ready to be a father. But the moment that truly surprised me was when Vincent approached. He, who had carried so much resentment and pain until that day, seemed like a different person. Without saying a word, he leaned in to see his brother and, with tear-filled eyes, gently touched the baby's small face. Something inside him seemed to have changed, as if the birth of this new life had reminded him of what truly mattered. "He's my brother," Vincent murmured in a soft voice, almost as if speaking to himself. "I didn't know I would feel this." Tyler looked at Vincent with a look of surprise and relief. The silence that followed was no longer heavy with hurt or anger. Instead, there was a new understanding between them. Something that didn't need to be said, but that they both felt as they looked at that small, helpless being that now united them. The following days were a mix of exhaustion and joy. We returned home, and gradually, the wounds that had once seemed impossible to heal began to close. Vincent decided to stay with us, saying he needed to be near his brother, and the tension that had previously dominated the environment gave way to a lighter, almost harmonious coexistence. Tyler and Vincent, who could not be in the same space without confronting each other, now worked together to help care for the baby. I watched it all with a light heart, almost unable to believe what was happening. Vincent still had his hurts, and I knew that full forgiveness would take time, but he was trying. And that, for me, was everything. One day, while I rested on the couch watching the two play with the baby, I realized that something had changed irrevocably. It was no longer just about me or the mistake I had made. It was about the three of us, about a new family that, against all odds, was forming. Life has a strange way of taking us down paths we never imagined, forcing us to face the worst in ourselves while simultaneously offering the chance to rebuild what was broken. After everything that happened, I never thought I could find peace again. I never imagined that Vincent could look at Tyler without resentment, or that the three of us could share a home in harmony. But the birth of the baby changed everything. Not just for me, but for Vincent and Tyler as well. In that moment, when the baby came into the world, something transformed between us. The hurt gave way to care, the bitterness was replaced by responsibility, and more importantly, the love for the new life connected us in a way I never expected. It wasn't easy. Every day was a new lesson, a step towards forgiveness and acceptance. Vincent, despite still carrying the pain of betrayal, chose to stay. He understood that his brother was not to blame for our wrong choices, and that made him realize there was something greater than his grievances. Tyler, on the other hand, transformed. That carefree young man full of dreams became a man willing to take on his responsibilities. He stood by me during the toughest moments and showed that, despite the mistakes, he was capable of love and care. And I, amidst all this, learned that forgiveness, both from others and within myself, was the key to moving forward. I couldn't change what happened, but I could choose what to do with the future. Now, we live together in a home that still bears the marks of the past, but is also filled with new possibilities. Vincent, Tyler, the baby, and I form an imperfect but real family. Each day is a new chance to rebuild the bonds that were broken, to heal the wounds that still exist. In the end, life is not about avoiding mistakes, but about finding a way to move forward, to grow from them, and to build something new from the ashes. That's what we did, and somehow, we found the peace we so desperately sought. Watch the video appearing on your screen, and remember to subscribe to the channel to continue receiving more stories. We'll see you in a few seconds.